So, welcome everybody. My name is Jared Palmer. I'm here with Nick Graf, and we're at React Europe 2019. Welcome, welcome. So, Nick just gave an awesome talk on the brand new and ReasonReact that just came out, or what's new in the universe. So, tell us, what is new in the ReasonReact universe?
The big thing about the new ReasonReact is basically it was waiting on hooks. So the internal team knew for a long time that hooks are coming. What's new is it's now based on a code transformation. So you can leverage named arguments. It's like a really nice feature of Reason. But the output is like, it looks like a handwritten React component. If you would write it in plain JS. So the interop is really nice. You simply let BuckleScript, the Reason compiler, compile it. And the output is like, if you can simply import the output and use it as a plain React component. And
Nice.
that's really comfortable.
Cool. And so, we talked about this before, but it's not just Facebook that's using Reason now. It's expanded to other companies, right?
Yeah,
Talk a little bit
absolutely.
about that.
Yeah, I'm also co-organizing ReasonConf, and yay! This year the theme was on the road to production.
Yeah.
So for one day, all talks were just about people sharing their experiences, how to use Reason in production, and what is there like. Obviously, this like picking such a technology
Right.
that is not. It's still a small ecosystem. It comes with trade-offs, but most of them are really happy about it.
What are some of those trade-offs? Talk to it.
I mean, for once, you like, for example, if you have TypeScript, there are tons of bindings.
Right.
So you go out there and you simply search for bindings. Probably someone made them for whatever
Right.
library you're
Or
looking
like an
for.
earlier version of it.
Exactly, yeah. These are the troubles again.
Right.
But with ReasonReact, you have to do them by yourselves. There are some, but yeah, reality is sometimes you have to do that by yourself. And other thing is like simply because of the smaller ecosystem, you find less answers on Stack Overflow, etc. So
Right. But you have it's a Discord
Absolutely,
channel. And so,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's where I know that a lot of the community aggregates on
Yeah.
Discord, so you just ask your questions there. It's almost sometimes better.
Totally. And
Yeah.
I sometimes it's even better because the response time is like.
Or they'll change the language for you, right? Like,
Yeah.
right, they'll be like, okay, let's
That
change how it
happens,
works.
yeah.
Okay.
That is like, yeah, it actually happens. So, for example, for me, there was we had a discussion in Vienna. What does fast pipe even mean? And then eventually we came up like maybe it should be pipe first, pipe last, and we changed it, accepted, merged, and whoa, suddenly you changed the language.
That's pretty cool. And
yeah.
talk about, I know Reason's changed a lot. Like I remember when I ran the New
yeah.
York meetup, and then if I looked at the Reason for that like landing page, I'd go to that Reason, and the Reason that you're writing right now with the hooks is completely different for ReasonReact. I mean, and so like, but talk about the upgrade cycle and like how that's been. Because it changes a lot, right? But it's all incremental, right? Like you can always upgrade.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So talk about how that works.
So basically, I mean, in the end, under the hood, it compiles to an OCaml AST, and then from there either to JavaScript or native code, or even bytecode. But basically, when they changed something in the syntax, which like the big upgrade, the big change was from version 2, Reason version 2, the syntax to 3, where it became like from something that looked very much like OCaml syntax,
Yeah.
to basically almost one-to-one JavaScript syntax.
Yeah.
And that change was massive because for once, I mean, you always lose people because they like the other syntax more, but the experience was everyone who did JavaScript before, they had like, it was so easy to onboard. And how it worked is simply, at this particular case, you have reformat, you have your old version 2 syntax, you run reformat on top of it, and boom, there you go, and
Beauty of
everything
types.
was fixed.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. So for people who are evaluating Reason, we use TypeScript.
Yeah.
And you run a consultancy, so talk about client adoption and how their appetite is changing. Have you seen it gone in like north, south? Like where do you see it going for? Probably like
I
don't know, talk
think,
about that a little bit.
most people still use either untyped JavaScript or TypeScript nowadays.
Right.
I have also one project that currently where they use Flow. But there's certainly appetite. but I like, and for some projects, I'm on board with like, let's use Reason. But in the last couple of months, also like 2 teams, I told them, we had an open discussion about it, and basically my recommendation is like, this is you're not there yet. You have a lot of people who are like not even familiar with basic type systems
Right.
at all, and like this would be a huge leap. You would suffer in terms of productivity, and
Right.
maybe you go for TypeScript first, and then if you feel the pain, if you feel like this is not good enough
Right.
anymore, and you want more, and the team has a basic understanding of like how type system works, then you might be ready to take the next step. And the best part is you can incrementally adopt it,
Right.
generate TypeScript types, TypeScript typed components, flow typed components.
And what's that called? It's called GenType?
GenType is the tool to do that.
Right, I
yeah.
think you showed that off today. That's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
exactly.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Like to think about onboarding someone from no types to Reason seems like a lot, but I feel like maybe an interim step is TypeScript. I guess that it depends on the application you're building too, right? Like,
Totally, yeah.
so what are some applications that are good candidates for?
One thing that I could mention is like that's a story from ReasonConf. There was a story, a talk, ReasonML saving lives.
Okay.
So they're building a medical application, and there you actually like it has to be absolutely correct all the time.
Right.
Like there's no way that that's like undefined of undefined should ever happen. So they and type safety is basically giving them another level of like safety
Right.
to make sure they create bug-free software.
And can you talk a little about the difference between when you get type safety and TypeScript versus Reason a little bit? Because it's different, right? Like you know ahead of time when something's going to be wrong in Reason, and sometimes in TypeScript. I mean, you can talk more about that.
Sure. So in I think the biggest difference is what's the default, because if you have TypeScript by default, if you don't type it, it's any.
Right.
And in Reason, basically the compiler tries to figure out based on how you use it. Like let's say you print it out somewhere, or like you have a React string. It tries to figure like if you use it like that, it must be a string. So there's a very awesome type inference engine, basically trying to figure out what's the type, so you don't have to type it, and it will figure it out. And if it can't, it will actually prevent you from compiling and throw an error and tell you like. So the default is like it's a sound type system, whereas like everything should be typed.
Right.
There are ways to bail out, but that's not the common case or the default that you want to do. I mean, in for example, the ReasonConf website, 2018 was 2019 as well, but that was Gatsby and ReasonReact and so on. And we had like the one thing where we wanted to bail out because it was like we could have typed it, but it was just the Google Analytics tag.
Yeah.
And that was like copy paste from JavaScript. You make this as a function that returns nothing. You run it, you put it in there, and it's basically encapsulated in there, and you don't worry about it.
You don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
So that's nice. You can encapsulate if you need to.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's a good escape hatch because like
Exactly,
being too
yeah.
rigid is sometimes tough. I know in like
Absolutely.
Elm, for example, like it's not as flexible sometimes some situations like that.
Yeah.
So where do you see the language moving in the next 16 to 18 months? Like where do you see like where's it going to improve? Talk to me about the future.
Basically, right now it's in the phase that there are a couple of companies and teams using it in production. But and the big shift was now the release of ReasonReact, because that's what most people do. But also like there's basically two paths. Like for once there's the native side, and we see tools like Rivery, Brisk, and so on exploring there. But I think so what needs to happen there is like basically a lot of like tooling and it has to stabilize. It's all like you can build stuff, but it's not production ready. So we have to, on the native side, we have to get to production ready for these tools. When other tools are production ready on the native side, you can build awesome CLIs that are super fast.
Yeah, the systems level stuff is all ready to rock,
this
right?
is
Like,
all rock
like Flow
solid.
is written in Reason, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's ready for that.
Yeah, and on the other hand, just more bindings, definitely better documentation.
Yeah.
We lacking there. Everyone is aware, but this is one thing that Patrick and I, organizers of ReasonConf, actually actively working on.
What is your strategy there? Are you like
For once, what already has happened is there's a tool called ODoc, which is like kind of the default way for generating API docs in
Okay.
OCaml, and we added reason support syntax. So every tool that is written in every library written in OCaml, if they use ODoc, you basically automatically get reason syntax, and you can use it for any library that you write with reason as well, and then generate a nice API documentation.
that's pretty sweet.
That's nice, yeah. So that's the one step. We wanna like make it super easy, like have one binary way that you run against your code, and boom, you have like typed documentation, like all the good stuff, and yeah, and then there's a lot more of like guides and explaining
Yeah.
how the things work, because if you have things like similar to TypeScript, high order components, this is a hassle. So you can use certain ways to get it done or like work around
Yeah,
it.
so talk a little bit about that. Like there's some things you can do that you can't do in JavaScript. There's actually a lot of things. But there's
Yeah.
also some patterns in regular React that, let's just say, are way more challenging. One of them is higher order components, right?
Yeah.
What are some other ones that are maybe harder, and what are some ones that are like totally different, if you can explain them even?
I think the only one that really is troublesome is high order
Is HOCs,
components.
yeah.
Yeah, that's at least the
Now, do hooks solve for that in some ways, because you can just use hooks instead?
totally, yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
But sometimes you have like, for example, when we for one recently we started working on a Stripe donation form.
Okay.
And we typed the Stripe elements.
But they require an
use-
HOC, yeah,
There is
yeah.
one HOC, and I mean probably in 6 months they have. There's a hook instead of an HOC, but
Yeah.
at the moment there is, and then you basically work around with this hidden little thing nobody knows about, object.magic.
Okay.
Which kind of tells Reason is like there's like anything is coming in here.
Oh, you heard it
and-
here first. Like, yeah, there's a way to bail. That makes
Yeah.
sense. Yeah, I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Are there any other APIs in React that are hard to deal with, or really just HOCs is the only pattern that's tough?
HOCs. Is
Yeah.
the- I mean, there's lazy loading, but there's already a way to do it. This depends a little bit on BuckleScript on how it does imports, but so if there's one change coming, then it can be super nicely done. Right now, you need a little workaround, but
Okay.
it's already documented. People have done it.
Right.
You can get it done. Yeah.
And so, what are some things in ReasonReact that you can't do in regular React?
You just write code, don't type it, and it's type safe.
Yeah, that's pretty
just
cool.
The best part of it. Apart from that, it's like it's React.
Yeah.
Yeah, and React is awesome, and it can do things. And if you want suspense, you're gonna use it. You know, in the end, ReasonReact is a wrapper on top of it's just bindings to React that are type safe. And I mean, yeah, we can leverage cool data structures like variants instead of writing these objects with type, and that's a bit more handy. And then you have pattern matching. That's nice. But this is cool sugar, but doesn't make a
Right.
huge difference. I think one thing that is particularly interesting is the router. So the ReasonReact
Oh yeah, it comes with a router.
comes with a router, and it has already a use route hook.
Very cool.
And the magic of it is just that because you have pattern matching,
You just pattern match on the route.
basically don't need this custom matching engine that React Router gives
Right,
you.
you don't
because
need path to regex.
Exactly,
whatever,
yeah.
right,
You it's just and it works so smooth and out of box. It's fantastic, yeah. And the whole thing is 180 lines of code, and it does everything that I ever needed with React Router.
That's awesome. Cool. Well, thanks so much. This has been awesome. Thanks for joining us. And
Thank
how
you
can
very
people
much.
follow you?
You can go Twitter/Nick Graf,
Yep.
NIKGRAF.
And when is the next ReasonConf?
Next year.
All right, well-
sometime in spring, probably early June.
Well, we'll definitely be there. Well, thanks so much. Really appreciate
Awesome.
it.
Thank you very much.
Yep, awesome.
That was fun.
Cool.